cool is that? Little rooftop tent on the back rack. Sweet little Tacoma. Alright, so I'm going to dry fit this beam. This is that big bulky support beam for the Happy Jack slide out mechanism. I've got my holes drilled for the camper tie downs, which they actually mount through. You can see those 4 holes right there, and then the Happy Jack slide out mechanism bolts through these areas here. So I'll do a dry fit, make sure everything fits as intended and all the holes line up, and then I'll throw some sealant down, some adhesive, and then get the bolts run through. Got all new grade 8 bolts for the tie downs and for the 4 mounting points for the slide out. Alright, so it looks like everything lines up. All the holes line up. Go ahead and get it bolted, or go ahead and get the adhesive put down underneath it and get the new bolts put in. Get everything secured. So these are all the bolts I need to replace. These are for the slide out mechanism. These bolts go to the inside, these bolts go to the outside next to the wall, which go through that big metal support beam, that thick aluminum support beam. And then these are for the tie downs. So these are the front tie downs, which are longer because they go through, again, that support beam. And then these don't go through the support beam, they go into that electrical, the shore power cord compartment. So that's just going through that 3/4 inch lower wall into the steel tie down. And then of course these will all be, I'm going to go grade 8 bolts and nuts and washers for all that stuff. And over here we've got the first sidewall, which I've already started cutting the fiberglass for that. I've got it cut to width at the widest point, which is 19.5 inches. The narrow, because it tapers back, the narrow point is 18 3/4. So I just need to cut that taper, and then I'll have for the inside panel, I'll have that, and then the outside panel, of course, has to be a little bit longer. Instead of it being 54.5, it's got to be 56.25, I believe it was. But I'll take another measurement for that and get those cut. Then I can start using the foam plastic and get all this stuff cut in the 1 inch thick pieces and get the guts framed out so I can put the foam in and get the window areas cut out. So on these sidewalls, not only is the top sloped to allow the rainwater to, run off to the outside, the inside wall, this would be on the inside of the camper, and that's the wall that would be on the outside of the camper, or the side of this wall that would be on the outside. This side also has a slight taper of about 1 inch, so it's more narrow on the top and it's wider at the bottom. And what that does is, since the slide out mechanism is on the bottom and it's running out this way, it's going to allow this top outside corner to hit the inside camper wall first to create that seal, and then it's going to continue to run out for another 1 inch to make sure that that seal is tight all the way up the wall. And it also helps kind of level out the slide out a little bit. As it runs out, it'll level out and make that seal nice and tight on the outside of the camper wall. So it's imperative that we have that. I've drawn my line here all the way down, that we have that slope on that wall when we rebuild it. Otherwise, it's not going to seal properly. So later on down the road, as I'm actually installing the slide out, I'll demonstrate that a little bit so you can see that the top of the slide out hits the wall first, and then it continues to run until the bottom is tight against the wall, makes that full seal. That's kind of, you know, the purpose of that de-seal on the outside and on the inside, so it can continue to run in and it compresses and makes that seal nice and even all the way across from the top to the bottom. All right, so what I've done is I've clamped that piece of fiberglass that I just cut to the front side of the old wall, so I can just outline with a pencil where the window cutout's going to be, because I've decided I'm going to put the window in the same location. Instead of a dinette going here, there's going to be a sofa, but it is going to be built up a little bit. So where the window is should be about the right height. Go ahead and outline this and get it cut out. All right, so another way I could do this is just measure down and measure in, and then use the, there's an inside lip on this window frame. This is the interior window frame that, you know, that mounts up against the cutout, and then you run your screws in to seal the window into the wall. But this inside lip here is the cutout size, so that's where the ring actually slides into the cutout. So I could take this and, you know, if I wanted to move this window down 2 inches, I can you know, measure where I need that to go, and then take my pencil and get in there on that inside line and draw my my cutout shape. So I could do that if I wanted to. I just found it just as easy to draw my outline using the existing wall here, because I'm not going to move the window down. Just mark your lines out and then get a nice long straight piece of lumber, or I'm using the poly wood, and you know, measure out your offset for your blade, and then just cut your straight line. That works much better. All right, so now I can cut my taper on this top piece. All right, so once we have the hole location kind of set where we want it, we can take a Forstner bit and just drill a hole, a starter hole, so we can get our jigsaw in there and cut out the opening for the window. Okay, so got my hole cut out. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my window frame and make sure it fits in there. Just a note, when you're transferring your line to the next sheet, you'll want to make your cut on the outside of that line, because you're gonna be drawing the line on the inside of this cut. So you're gonna wanna cut on the outside of that line. And each additional sheet that you do after the first one, you're going to want to cut on the outside of the line, while on the first one you cut to the inside of the line. Sure everything fits. Okay. You got a good fit. It's snug, but it does fit. If you do have an area on the cutout where maybe the window frame doesn't quite fit perfectly, just take your random orbit sander or just a piece of sandpaper with maybe some 80 grit and just you know, sand it down a little bit until that window frame fits in there nicely. You don't want to be fighting it when, you know, after everything's all put together. Okay, I've got all 4 of the skins cut out for the interior and exterior. Got the window pulls cut out, and I'm going to go ahead and start cutting my dimensional plastic here, this foam plastic for the framework, kind of sort of matching how they did it here with the wood. I'm going to beef up the corners a little bit more. I'll add more framing on the top, and I'm going to add a few more pieces of framing on the this kind of larger span here, just because I don't know if I want to add a shelf later or something like that. So I'm just going to put a couple of nice wide pieces there, and I'll know where they're measured up to. Probably go up like 12 inches and do a 6-inch piece, and then another 12 inches and do a 6-inch piece. And then I'm going to do a nice wide piece, probably an 8-inch piece here. So, and then the rest, of course, will be insulation. I'm gonna end this video here though, because again, it's going longer than I thought it was going to. I don't want to condense this too much, because if any of you guys out there, you know, want to see how it's done kind of step by step, you know, that's kind of why I'm doing this. It's not for entertainment purposes or anything like that. It's mainly just so you can see how it's done if you've got a problem. There's a lot of campers out there that have rot, and slide outs are really bad. They're not always sealed perfectly, and you know, they're really susceptible to having some water leaks. And then it just takes a little bit of time, and if you've got a coach that's made with Luan and Phylon glued to the outside, it's definitely going to delaminate and separate. Then you've got the mold issue and all that kind of stuff, and I just didn't want to deal with that. So showing any of you guys out there that you know, this can be done using the structural foam and the foam plastic, dimensional lumber, well, the plastic, and then the fiberglass siding to rebuild a slide out. And so that's kind of why I'm going about this kind of more of a step-by-step process than a vlog type of video. So anyway, for any of you people out there, this is super boring. I apologize, but for anybody out there that you know, needs the information, that's why I'm doing it. So anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm going to be framing up the sidewalls and hopefully getting everything put together. So yeah, we'll see you then. Later.